For most of human history, there were no hospitals, no antibiotics, no surgery under anesthesia, no vaccines, no understanding of germ theory, no knowledge of viruses, no pharmaceutical industry, no emergency rooms, no blood transfusions, no sterile instruments. The average life expectancy in the Paleolithic period is often cited as somewhere between 25 and 35 years. And yet Homo sapiens survived, more than survived, thrived, expanded, colonized every habitable continent, built civilizations, and eventually produced the medical knowledge that now extends life to 7, 8, 9 decades. How? How did a species without medicine survive long enough to invent medicine? The question sounds simple. The answer is anything but. Start with the number that is most frequently misunderstood: life expectancy. The figure of 25 to 35 years for ancient humans is often interpreted to mean that people rarely lived past their 30s. This is wrong, and understanding why it is wrong changes the entire picture. Life expectancy at birth is an average that is dragged down catastrophically by infant and child mortality. In ancient populations, somewhere between 30 and 50% of children died before the age of 5, from infection, injury, starvation, predation, and the full range of hazards that the ancestral environment presented to small, vulnerable bodies. These deaths pull the average down dramatically. But the people who survived childhood often lived into their 50s, 60s, and beyond. Skeletal analysis of ancient remains consistently shows individuals who lived to what we would consider middle and old age. The ancient world was not a world in which everyone died young. It was a world in which many children died, and adults who survived childhood often lived relatively long lives. This distinction matters enormously. It means that what ancient humans needed was not a system to extend life past middle age. Many of them achieved this without any medical intervention at all, but a way to survive the hazards that killed the most people: infection, injury, and childbirth. The first and most important answer to how ancient humans survived without medicine is the immune system. The human immune system is one of the most sophisticated biological defense systems that evolution has ever produced. It has 2 layers. The innate immune system, present from birth, responds rapidly and nonspecifically to pathogens, deploying inflammation, fever, and cellular defenses within hours of an infection. The adaptive immune system, which takes longer to activate but is far more precise, learns from each pathogen it encounters, develops specific antibodies, and retains immunological memory that allows it to destroy the same pathogen faster and more effectively on subsequent encounters. Together, these systems handle the vast majority of infectious challenges that any organism faces. Your immune system defeats hundreds of pathogens every year without you ever becoming aware that a battle was fought. In the ancestral environment, the pathogens that humans encountered were primarily those that had co-evolved with human biology for thousands or millions of years. The immune system had, over deep evolutionary time, developed responses to the most common threats. This is not to say the immune system always won. Clearly it did not, and infectious disease was a major cause of death throughout human prehistory. But it won far more often than it lost, and this is the fundamental reason that ancient humans survived in a world without antibiotics. They had an immune system that was, in many respects, operating at peak capacity, not suppressed by the chronic stress, sedentary behavior, processed food, and disrupted sleep that compromise immune function in many modern populations. The second answer is behavioral medicine, the set of instinctive and culturally transmitted behaviors that reduce the probability of disease and injury before the fact. Ancient humans were not passive recipients of whatever the environment threw at them. They developed, through observation and cultural transmission across generations, a rich body of practical knowledge about which plants were poisonous and which were medicinal, which water sources were safe and which were not, how to treat wounds to prevent infection, how to set broken bones, how to assist in difficult births, and how to manage the wide range of physical ailments that human bodies are heir to. The archaeological and ethnographic record is full of evidence of this practical medical knowledge. Neanderthal remains show evidence of healed injuries, broken bones that were set and knitted, wounds that closed, bodies that recovered from what would have been debilitating trauma, suggesting not just that the immune system did its work, but that other members of the group provided care. You cannot heal from a broken femur in the ancient world without someone else bringing you food and water and keeping predators away. The existence of healed injuries in ancient skeletal remains is evidence not just of biological resilience, but of social care, of the fact that ancient humans took care of their injured and sick rather than abandoning them. The ethnobotanical record, the study of how human cultures have used plants medicinally, reveals a staggering depth of empirical pharmacological knowledge accumulated over thousands of years of observation. Willow bark, which contains salicylic acid and has been used for pain relief and fever reduction across cultures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, is perhaps the most famous example. It is the natural precursor to aspirin. Opium poppies have been used for pain relief since at least the Neolithic period. Honey has been used as an antimicrobial wound dressing for thousands of years, and we now know that it works because of its low water content, high sugar concentration, and hydrogen peroxide production. Garlic has been used across cultures for its antimicrobial properties, which are real and have been confirmed by modern research. Turmeric's anti-inflammatory properties are the subject of extensive modern study. Ancient humans did not understand the biochemical mechanisms underlying these treatments, but they discovered, through millennia of trial and observation, that they worked. Paleontologist Karen Hardy and colleagues have found evidence of medicinal plant use in Neanderthals, based on chemical analysis of dental calcite. The Neanderthals whose remains were analyzed appear to have consumed plants with known medicinal properties, plants that tasted bitter and had no nutritional value, suggesting they were not eaten for food but for their effects. This pushes the evidence for intentional medicinal plant use back more than 50,000 years, to a species that preceded modern Homo sapiens. The third answer is the structure of ancient social life. Humans are intensely social animals, and the small group structure of hunter-gatherer society, the bands of 20 to 50 people who formed the basic social unit of human existence for most of our evolutionary history, created conditions that were, in some ways, surprisingly protective against certain kinds of disease. Hunter-gatherer groups are mobile, moving through their territory on seasonal rounds rather than settling permanently in one place. This mobility means they rarely accumulate the concentrated waste and contamination that produces the epidemic diseases of settled agricultural life. The great epidemic diseases of history, smallpox, cholera, plague, typhoid, influenza, are primarily diseases of dense, settled populations. Hunter-gatherers, living in small mobile groups, were largely protected from these by the very structure of their social life. The epidemiological transition, the shift from infectious diseases to chronic diseases as the primary cause of death, that we think of as a product of modern medicine, was partially present in the hunter-gatherer lifestyle by default. Many of the conditions that now kill people in the modern world, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, many cancers, obesity-related conditions, were rare or absent in hunter-gatherer populations. Not because hunter-gatherers were healthier in any simple sense, but because they did not live the sedentary, calorie surplus, chronically stressed, sleep-disrupted lives that produced these conditions. The ancestral environment, brutal as it was in many respects, was also an environment of constant physical activity, diverse whole food diets, strong social bonds, and the episodic rather than chronic nature of stressors. The fourth answer is perhaps the most counterintuitive: natural selection. The human immune system and the human body's remarkable capacity for self-repair are not accidents. They are the product of billions of years of evolution in which organisms that could not fight infection, heal wounds, or recover from illness died and did not reproduce. Natural selection is, in a very real sense, the oldest and most brutal form of medicine, one that operates not on individuals but on populations over geological time. The humans who survived without modern medicine were not just lucky. They were, in part, the descendants of an unbroken chain of ancestors who had the immune responses, the wound-healing capacity, the physiological resilience, and the behavioral adaptations to survive in a world of constant biological challenge. This is not to romanticize natural selection. It is a process that involves enormous suffering and death. But it is to recognize that the human body's capacity to survive without medicine is not an accident. It is an achievement of evolutionary engineering built over millions of years. There is a final piece that is easy to overlook: the nature of the threats. Ancient humans faced a different disease landscape than modern humans. They did not face the epidemic crowd, diseases that would emerge with agricultural settlement and urbanization. They did not face the pandemic potential of a globally connected world. The pathogens they encountered were primarily those that had co-evolved with human populations over long periods, and both the pathogen and the host had reached a kind of dynamic equilibrium in which the pathogen did not kill all its hosts, because a pathogen that kills all its hosts goes extinct along with them. The most dangerous pathogens in human history, the ones that killed millions, were often novel pathogens, crossing from animal populations into humans for the first time, or pathogens spreading through populations that had no prior exposure. The ancient human's immune system was not challenged by novelty in the same way that post-agricultural human populations were. None of this is to say that ancient human life was easy or pleasant. Rates of traumatic injury were high. Parasitic infection was common. Dental disease, untreated, caused chronic pain and systemic infection. Childbirth was dangerous. Famine was a recurring reality. The ancient world was genuinely harsh, and the life expectancy numbers, even properly understood, reflect real suffering and premature death on a scale that modern medicine has dramatically reduced. But the question of how ancient humans survived without medicine is really a question about the relationship between biology and culture over deep time. The answer is that they survived because of the immune system that evolution had built over billions of years, because of the practical medical knowledge that culture had accumulated over thousands of years, because of the social structures that reduced exposure to the most dangerous pathogens, and because of the remarkable capacity for self-repair that natural selection had installed in the human body long before the first doctor mixed the first potion. Modern medicine did not rescue humans from a pre-medical world of helplessness and misery. It built on a foundation of biological resilience and accumulated practical knowledge that had been developing for millions of years. Understanding that foundation is understanding something important about both the ingenuity of evolution and the depth of human knowledge that long preceded the scientific revolution.